Okay, now, I'll tell you another story here. This is about my grandpa, my dad's dad. He grew up in the 1920s and 30s. He was actually born in 1919, and his father died from the Spanish flu in 1919, just when my grandpa was just still a baby, um, pretty much a newborn baby. So my grandpa never knew his father, really, because his father was gone shortly after he was born. Anyway, when my grandpa was growing up, he played hooky from school a lot and stuff, to get into some trouble, and whatnot. And so, the old nuns that taught at the school, a lot of them didn't have much hope for my grandpa. They figured he wasn't ever going to amount to very much. Anyway, in the late 1930s, my grandpa became an electrician, and he was working for the town. And in those days, they had these electricians who worked for the town, at least in my hometown. They worked for the public utilities, and they were responsible to repair any appliances or anything like that in your house that would break down. And they also, with your wiring and stuff like that in your house, anything like that needed to be done. Or if you needed to install, a light switch or an electrical outlet or a light fixture or something, you would call the town, and then they'd send an electrician to do that. Anyway, my grandpa was one of those that did that. And there's a couple of funny stories I'll tell you. They got a call one time at the shop. Their shop was in the town hall, at the back of the town hall. Anyway, they got a call at their shop from a lady who was having a difficulty with a lamp. And when she touched the lamp, you would give her a shock, and there was a short in it or whatever, give her a shock. Well, my grandpa was just a young electrician just starting out at the time, and they sent him over to her house to repair her lamp. So he got over there, and it didn't take him long to figure out what was wrong with it. Of course, it was a metal lamp. And he asked the lady, he said, "Can I use your telephone? Because I'm going to call back to the shop, because I know what part I need to fix this. And that way I'll go back over to the shop and get the part. And when I get there, the part will be ready. They'll have it there waiting for me. I won't have to stand around and wait for it or go in and look for it or whatever. They'll have it there. So it'll save some time." So she said, "Yeah, no problem, the phone's there." Well, my grandpa was holding on to her lamp that had a short in it with one hand, and he picked up the old candlestick telephone. The old telephones, they called them a candlestick telephone, and it was all metal, too. He picked up that with the other hand. And as soon as he did that, he completed the circuit. The electricity started to go from the lamp up his arm, around his heart, across his chest, and out his other arm, into the telephone, which was grounded, made out of metal, too. So he was being electrocuted, and of course his muscles all cramped up, and he couldn't let go of the phone. And that the receiver that hung on the hook on the side of the candlestick telephone, with him violently convulsing as he was being electrocuted, it fell off the hook, and you could hear the operator on the other end saying, "Number please, number please, number please," over and over again. And I guess, anyway, the old lady recognized what was happening, the lady who owned the house and owned the sorted out lamp and everything. And so she took and she just gave him a wallop there, knocked the telephone out of his hand. And that's how that broke the contact anyway and saved his life. He'd have been electrocuted otherwise. But that's one story. And another story that's kind of funny about the nuns anyway is he got called over to the convent because they needed to install an electrical outlet in a baseboard near to a piano. They had a piano there, and they wanted a lamp, an electric lamp there, to be able to read the music and so on when they played the piano. So they had this electric lamp that would illuminate the music book, in the stand there on the piano so that they'd be able to read it. But they needed to be able to plug it in. So anyway, they called the town and asked them to send somebody over and install a baseboard outlet where the piano was so that they'd be able to plug this lamp in. So my grandpa got sent over there, and he's down, there on the floor or whatever, installing this outlet, cutting a hole in the baseboard and installing the outlet, running the wires and everything. And one of the nuns that was there was a nun that had been particularly hard on him in school and really didn't have any use for him. And one of the other nuns was there. I mustn't have thought too badly of him anyway, because the other nun says to the nun who gave him a hard time, she says, "So, sister," I forget the name now, but "So, sister so-and-so, no, Sister Mary so-and-so," she says, "this is the young man you always said would never amount to anything." She said, "What do you think now?" And the harsh old nun just kind of looked and shook her head, and she says, "We'll see. We'll see." Like that, she wasn't willing to give him the benefit. She wasn't really willing to give him too much benefit of the doubt. Anyway, she figured he might still go wrong, I guess, But that's another story that I remember. Another story that's kind of comical in a way is at our local jail, my grandpa got called to replace all the light fixtures in one of the cell ranges. There were porcelain light fixtures with the bulb screwed into them, running along the ceiling and the ceilings in the cell ranges and in our local jail. And anyway, they all got broken, and I'll tell you how they got broken. It's kind of a comical story. One of the prisoners got a Dear John letter. The girlfriend, when he was in jail, wrote him a letter saying that she was breaking up with him, didn't want to see him anymore or anything, And each cell had a pot in it to pee in. It had they didn't have plumbing in the cells. It was just a pot with a lid on it or whatever, and that's where you did your business. And then you'd have to dump that pot out eventually, but that's where you did your business. Anyway, he took the pot out of his cell, the pea pot, and he walked up and down the cell range, throwing it up in the air, smashed all the light fixtures out of the cell range, is what he did, because he was so upset about getting this letter from his girlfriend. So my grandpa had to go up there and replace all the light fixtures anyway that the guy broke. They were porcelain fixtures with bulbs in them, he had to replace all that anyway. So that's another story anyway from my grandpa's days as an electrician. But yeah, they actually did hangings in that jail at one time, and he had been in the area where the hangings took place. He'd saw that. He said he had saw the beam with the hook where the noose would hang and the trap door and everything. He actually did see that when he was in there to work at one time, doing some job around there. And that they hung a few people in that jail over the years, But anyway, that's the story. Lots of strange stuff happened years ago, The past is an interesting place, as they say. Different place. But that's it for now. I just thought I'd tell you some comical stories anyway, some kind of neat old stories about things that my grandpa had told me that he had experienced. My grandpa died at 77 years of age in 1996. He actually died on Valentine's Day, 1996. Anyway, that's all for now. Bye-bye.